The Gospel of John, chapter 4. Compassion for the very lost and desperate. When we lived at the beach, I met a young man who would one day become a close personal friend. His family ran a coastal distributorship for sundries such as candy and other impulse grocery and convenience store items. He used to drive by the big neon sign on I-5 near Tacoma that said, "Jesus is the answer." He said he always scoffed and said, "What is the question?" His wife brought their sweet little girls to our little church, which was close to their beach house, so that the girls could participate in the children's programs. One day they got the shocking news that the youngest, who was only 4 years old, had a cancer that would require radical and aggressive treatment. She lost all her hair and went through some agonizing times. The girls had parts in a Bible story play, so they brought their dad to see the performance. Though he did not yet know Jesus, he came because he loved his daughters and because he was desperate for the life of his littlest girl. The compassion he found at that little church, as friends prayed for her and shared things of Jesus with him, brought him to salvation. He became a strong witness for Jesus and was soon a dedicated and gifted worship leader. He later told me about the sign in Tacoma. He added that he now sees it doesn't matter what the question is. The answer is always Jesus. His name is John, and people like him are the subject of John chapter 4. Last time we saw John the Baptist taking his voice to the people in Samaria. Today we will see Jesus following up, as the Bible puts it. He needed to go through Samaria. There were two other acceptable routes for Jews to take. This route, not so much. Jesus stops at Jacob's well in Sychar, where he sits at the well in the heat of midday. A Samaritan woman comes to draw water at that very time, which tells us a lot about her. She was an outcast from the other more respectable women who drew water in the cool of the morning. She was popular with the men of the town, not with those women. Jesus engages her in a forbidden conversation. Jewish men despise Samaritans, and even more, would never be seen talking with any woman in public. Jesus had strategically sent his disciples into Sychar to buy food, again something no self-respecting Jew would stoop to do. Eat unclean Samaritan food? When they returned, Jesus demonstrates to his disciples his unlimited compassion by his conversation with the woman. She hurries off to tell the men of Sychar that this must be the Messiah because he told her everything she ever did. That, of course, catches the attention of the men, who are wondering, what all did he tell her? Jesus spends 2 more days with the lost folks in Samaria before continuing to Cana, where he is now famous for turning water to wine. There he intentionally encounters another despised man. Most translations render the term basilikos as nobleman. That is not a term that we would use for someone who works for the murderous, wicked Herod Antipas, but that's who this man is. Again, Jesus demonstrates for his disciples the extent of his compassion as he draws this man out and up in faith and then heals his dying son in a virtual social distancing kind of way. The man's faith, though he is a Gentile and another outsider to the promises of God, his faith is seen as he takes Jesus at his word and heads home to find his son healed at the very moment of Jesus' utterance. These 2 specific stories are told by John to clearly illustrate that Jesus intends to reach everyone everywhere, no matter how desperate or outcast from society they may be. Here are 2 Gentiles previously excluded from the promises of God, and Jesus leads them both into faith. As we saw initially in John's Gospel, he came to his own, but his own received him not. But as many as did receive him, to them he gave the right to become the children of God. Remember, John says he needed to go through Samaria. This is the heart of Jesus, without limits. Social rules and religion kill, but compassion saves in whatever life it is sown. And so it is, just as he told his disciples. Indeed, The fields are white unto harvest.